The big cheese, the great rivalry. The refrigerator door slammed shut, sending a chilling draft across the dimly lit aisle of Vinny's dairy. Inside, the hum of the cold air was interrupted only by the faint rustle of packaging and the occasional shuffle of cheese. The atmosphere was tense, as if the air itself could sense the impending clash between two of the most powerful figures in the dairy world. The big cheese, known in these parts as the Gigonzala, leaned against the top shelf, a smug grin on his face. He was a massive block of Gorgonzola cheese, dressed in a sharp black suit and fedora, embodying the perfect blend of intimidating and charismatic. His empire stretched across the refrigerator shelves, from the creamy butters to the sharpest cheddar blocks. No one dared cross him. For now, anyway. His empire had been unchallenged for years, with his loyal followers, the Gouda goons and the ricotta rollers, keeping everything running smoothly. The milk crates were his territory. The butter tubs were his allies. He had eyes everywhere, and no cheese dared defy his rule. He was at the top, and no one could topple him. Or so he thought. Outside the fridge, Inspector Colby Jack, a sharp, no-nonsense wedge of cheese, stood with his arms crossed. He was the best investigator in the Dairy Bureau, and he'd been hot on the big cheese's tail for years. Colby Jack wasn't intimidated by Gorgonzola's grandeur or his sharp suits. No, Colby had one thing that the Gigonzala didn't: determination. He had been working tirelessly to bring the big cheese's empire to an end. For weeks, he'd been collecting evidence, gathering intel, and getting closer to taking down the big cheese mogul. His inside informant, Brie, a mild-mannered cheese who had once been part of Gigonzala's gang, had given him the leverage he needed. Brie had once been a trusted member of the Gorgonzola gang, a group of cheeses that handled all the illicit dealings in Vinny's dairy. However, she had become disillusioned with the big cheese's corrupt ways and had been feeding Colby Jack information ever since. Tonight was supposed to be the night. Colby Jack had a plan. He wasn't just going to waltz in and arrest the Gigonzala. No, this was going to be a covert operation. Colby had managed to rally a team of undercover cheeses to infiltrate the fridge. The operation had been meticulously planned, and every piece had been set in motion. He had to move fast. Time was running out. Inside the fridge, the big cheese had no idea what was coming. His empire seemed unshakable, but even the biggest cheeses have weaknesses. And Colby Jack had found it. The fridge light flickered on, casting a cold glow on the shelves. The noise of the light buzzing was the only sound that could be heard as Colby Jack stepped inside, his trench coat swishing softly with each step. His face was hard, determined. No more games. This was it. Tonight, the big cheese would face justice. Colby Jack, he muttered under his breath. Time to bring down the kingpin. He slowly made his way past rows of dairy products, each item quietly standing guard on its designated shelf. Colby Jack's team, a group of elite cheeses including Cheddar Chuck, Parmesan Pete, and Swiss Sammy, were already in place. Their role was simple: distract, observe, and secure the fridge. They would keep the guards busy while Colby Jack went straight for the big cheese. But even as Colby Jack moved deeper into the fridge, he couldn't help but feel the weight of the moment. The Gigonzala had ruled this cold world for so long that taking him down seemed almost impossible. Colby Jack had to remain calm. He knew the big cheese's arrogance was his greatest weakness. That would be the key to his downfall. Back on the top shelf, the Gigonzala adjusted his fedora and surveyed his domain. His eyes narrowed as he scanned the rows of cheeses below him. He had a feeling that something wasn't quite right tonight. The fridge felt off. "Gouda, ricotta, you too," he growled, his deep voice echoing across the cold aisles. "Keep your eyes open. I smell something funny." Gouda, a large, smooth block of cheese, stepped forward, his face stern. "What is it, boss?" "I don't know, but something's up," the Gigonzala muttered, adjusting his suit. He stood tall, projecting confidence, but even he couldn't shake the growing unease that was creeping up his spine. He had run this fridge for so long that he could sense when things were about to go south. And tonight, he could feel that something was coming. Meanwhile, Brie, who had once been a part of the Gigonzala's inner circle, was quietly positioning herself on the middle shelf. She was nervous, but she knew this was the right thing to do. The Big Cheese's empire had grown corrupt, and the fridge was no longer a safe place for her. She had to make things right. Bree had grown tired of the crime, tired of the deals, and most of all, tired of the fear that the Big Cheese instilled in everyone who worked for him. She couldn't live that way anymore. It was time to tell Colby Jack everything she knew, even if it meant putting herself at risk. She had seen the signs, the growing shipments of expired milk, the secretive talks in the back corner of the fridge, and the way the Gouda goons had been handling things lately. She had to act now before it was too late. As Colby Jack reached the top shelf, he caught a glimpse of the Gigonzala's sharp suit. The moment was upon him. "Tonight, it's over, Gigonzala," Colby Jack whispered, almost to himself. "Tonight, justice will be served." With a sudden, dramatic move, Colby Jack stepped out from the shadows and confronted the Big Cheese. The rest of his team moved into place, ensuring that no one could escape. "The Big Cheese," Colby Jack said, his voice cold and firm, "your reign ends tonight. You're under arrest for multiple counts of dairy fraud, extortion, and illegal aging practices." The Big Cheese chuckled, his deep voice rumbling like thunder. "You think you can take me down, Colby? I'm the king of this fridge. No one tells me what to do." But Colby Jack wasn't backing down. "Your empire of lies is over. We've got all the evidence we need." At that moment, Bree stepped forward, her voice trembling but resolute. "It's true, Gigonzala. I've seen everything. You've been running a black market for expired milk and stolen butter. It's time for the truth to come out." The Big Cheese froze, his face darkening. He had always prided himself on being untouchable, but now the walls were closing in. He glared at Bree, then at Colby Jack, his eyes burning with fury. "You think you've won?" The Gigonzala growled. "I'll never go down that easily. No one challenges me and lives to tell about it." The tension in the fridge was palpable as the cheeses waited for the next move. But Colby Jack was ready. He had all the leverage, and there was no escaping the long arm of the law. With his team securing the fridge and the Big Cheese under arrest, Colby Jack stood tall, a sense of satisfaction washing over him. Tonight, justice had prevailed. The fridge was finally free of its corrupt ruler. "Looks like the Cold War's over," Colby Jack said, a small smile forming on his face as he led the Gigonzala out of the fridge. And so, the reign of the Big Cheese came to an end. If you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like, share, and subscribe buttons to stay updated with more content. This content has been adapted from the powerful features of Polyspeaks for You, South Africa's leading accessibility software. Learn more at www.polyspeaksforyou.co.za. We invite you to support this meaningful dyslexic initiative, crafted and developed by an individual who personally understands the challenges of dyslexia.